3 grams, you know, times that by 3, 24, so 240 milligrams of caffeine. That's gonna be pretty good. And I'm sweating my balls off, man. Sorry guys, you're gonna have to listen to the aircon. In the fucking trap. What's going on guys? Welcome to today's YouTube video. Today we got a little bit of a random one, but we're going to cover heaps of topics in today's video. So starting with pre-workout supplementation. Pre-workouts can be good, but basically the main thing you're going to get out of them is a caffeine hit, right? So caffeine is good pre-workout and it has shown to produce better performance. So I personally recommend about 3 to 4 grams, probably about that 3 gram mark per kilo of body weight, but that totally depends on the person and like how long you've been taking it for, your tolerance and stuff like that. So use that as just a very, very rough guide of maybe where you want to start. So for example, I weigh 80 kilos, about 240 milligrams caffeine before training, which is probably about what this is if it's about 3 shots. That will be pretty good for me. You might need way more, you might need a lot less. What I would say is definitely monitor your tolerance, keep your caffeine intake for pre-training. So for example, like if you're having just random coffees throughout the day and stuff, then when you go to use it for performance enhancing benefits like pre-training or pre-sport or whatever it is, you're probably not going to see as good benefit because your tolerance is going to rise and you're going to be used to it. Just like if you smash caffeine all the time, like you're going to adapt to it, your body's going to get used to it, and therefore you're going to take a pre-workout, you're going to get none of the benefits. So I highly recommend leaving it before training. You probably won't need to cycle it too much, but if you do feel your tolerance catching up, like you have caffeine and then you feel like no benefit, then I would probably recommend taking a break, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and then jump back on. You should be sweet. We're also going to touch on training plateaus and how to break through training plateaus once you feel like you've hit your ceiling, or where to go from there. Stay tuned. Going to hit a push session, fucking hell, and then we will cover those topics. In the fucking trap, get the fuck up. What? In the fucking trap, Guys, so we're going to go over training plateaus and why you plateau in the gym. So the main reason you plateau is because a lack of stimulus. So for a lack of stimulus, what we need to do is create a new stimulus to encourage growth. Now, how do we do that? And it's pretty simple. You either got to increase your load or you got to increase your volume. Now, if you increase your load, obviously that just means the weight lifted on the exercise, or increasing your volume, sets per muscle group per week. Now, this highly depends on who the person is or who the client is. So if they're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So if you're a beginner, you're gonna have a lot better chances of increasing your load than if you're an advanced trainee. Now, a beginner, that's where they talk about like the newbie gains, and this is the best. So the first year of their training, basically, increasing the load is going to be fairly easy, week to week, month to month, program to program. Whereas if you're an advanced trainee, increasing your load, especially every week, every month, becomes a lot more of a challenge. So the increments are going to be tiny, and it's also going to take longer. You know, your form and technique is going to have to be 100% spot on. When you get a newbie in the gym, like when I get new clients in the gym, their weight literally jumps up every single week for quite a long time, as long as their technique and form is good. If you're more advanced, you're going to be looking at more increasing your volume. So the sets per muscle group per week. Now, this is where tracking your progress, tracking your training is super important. A super rough guide is 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. Obviously, the smaller muscle groups are going to need a little bit less, and your larger muscle groups are going to need a little bit more. So like your biceps, your triceps, your calves, you probably won't have to do like 20 sets a week for them, but your quads, back, glutes, those sort of bigger muscle groups, they're going to need more sets, more volume as you go. So if you are an advanced trainee, obviously, like I was saying, you're going to need to be a lot more detailed with this, but increasing your volume, it doesn't have to be as simple as, cool, I'm doing 15 sets for quads every week, I'm going to go to 16 sets and then 17 and then 18. Like, that's a good way to do it, but you got to keep in mind, we just need a better stimulus. So you could still keep it at 16, you could just add in like a drop set, or you could extend one of your sets to make it a lot more difficult, if that makes sense. So instead of doing like 3 hard sets 10, you do your 3 hard sets 10. On the last set, you do a drop set where you do 10, 10, 10, or 10 drop the weight and go to failure. It's still gonna be more volume and it's still gonna be a bigger stimulus, but you haven't added on a 4th working set. The main take home point in all of this, like if you take anything away from this, it is the working sets have to be above a 7 out of 10 difficulty. If they're not above a 7 out of 10 difficulty, it's basically a warm up or it's junk volume. So this is where I personally go wrong as well, because a lot of people, they don't know their own capabilities until you train with someone experienced or you've really been pushed by someone before. Like I would think, oh yeah, that was about a 9 out of 10. And then I go and train with someone, you know, like a good coach saying, and they really push me. And really I had like 6 or 7 reps left in the tank. So I wasn't getting anywhere close to that, you know, 8, 9, 10 threshold. Now that threshold, you can either use like an RPE scale, which is rate of perceived exertion, or like a reps in reserve scale, so an RIR scale. Now this is a little bit like more advanced, so if you're a beginner, don't worry too much. If you're a beginner, just focus on what I was talking about before. But even still, you're still gonna be wanting to push above that 7 out of 10 threshold. So just think of it like, if you have 3 reps left in the tank, cool, you're about a 7 out of 10. If you're saying, oh yeah, I'm pushing a failure each set, if I put a gun to your head and said, you get 1 more rep, you shouldn't be able to get 1 more rep. Now that's a proper 10 out of 10, and that's when you have to be true to yourself and be like, oh, am I actually pushing any sets to there? Because this was my biggest problem. This is why I thought I'd share this with you guys as well. So I thought, oh, I haven't been growing in ages. I've hit the biggest training plateau. I was looking at all my volume and all this type of stuff. It was all good, and I always come back to here. I'm like, these sets aren't close enough to failure. So hopefully that helps. Zeusy Boy says, train hard, enjoy. Oh goddamn, he's so mad. He's so mad. I hope you liked the video. If you learned something from this, let me know, leave a comment, drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one.